Reframing Mindset podcast, where I clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity, practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Okay, welcome back to Reframe Mindset Podcast. My name is Constant Books, and this episode is about the fourth year of home ownership. I remember from last year talk about the hurricane that actually came last year and stuff. And I say, oh, can't compare a person's fourth year to so 8 years or how much years or stuff like that. So what happened was that remember from the last year you will hear me say something like useless things coming becoming useful or something like that. Or so basically what I was saying was that so that's the reason why I kinda actually record this episode because it's kinda important to record before I forget real life. So it's like what happened was that so last year I would say a useless thing or finding one of the episode or something like I am saying like using certain stuff in place of others, like for until you get the real thing. So, like for example, instead of using, I could not afford a pen holder. So what I would use is a candle holder to actually put pens in and stuff like that. But what happened was that the hurricane came. The hurricane came, and what happened was that I had to use the candle holder for burning candles. So what happened was that I never thought I would use a candle holder candle holder for candles. So I was out there so saying something like I'm going to just use a pen. I'm using for a pen holder, but what the hurricane came, light went out, and you and I actually had to use the candle holder for holding candles. So what happened is that sometimes so you go into a house and you buy certain stuff or your family give you certain stuff. And what happened is that you don't I say you can't compare a person's chapter something to your chapter one or something like that. And what happens is that you they buy you the stuff and you say, okay, this year, the first year of home ownership, I don't even use it, no hurricane don't come or something like that. Not like that didn't even need to use it. But let me use for something else. Then what will happen is that the situation will arise when you actually have to use this thing for its true purpose. And then when you use it for its true purpose now, then what happens is that the other purpose that you were using it for, you have to actually put it away now and say, okay, yes, this is the actual use of the thing now. And what happens is that these now I'm actually experiencing the real stuff that is actually happening. So boom, a candle holder, I was using it for a pen holder. What happened is now is that I unlock becoming a homeowner. I unlock so me I'm now assuming the risk of a homeowner now where it'll be like, okay, light can go away. So I actually have to be ready to say, okay, use the candle holder, that candle holder, and stuff like that. The next thing is the stuff that you purchasing or stuff like that. It's actually going to change. Things are as the things you want to do. What happens that and then each year of the home ownership. So I talk about the compounding interest or stuff like that. So your case of working, and when you're working, your case of forgetting your home, the home service pilot. What happened is that something you actually need to learn. You actually learn is that home and business is two different things. So before I was saying okay, CEO of your home or stuff like that. At this point, you kind of throw that away. You can actually say something like, I actually understand the thing of saying, no, man of the house or stuff like that. So what happens is that a business and a home is two different stuff. So what happens is that in a business, if you actually own a business, you have to actually pay. And what do I mean by that? So so what will happen is that in your home ownership, what you realize is that so boom. randomly, and that's what happens when you're growing up. And sometimes I have to actually say separate personal from business. When you're growing up, you hear something random like I like going away, and then hear the people that come in and saying like, "Oh my God, let me call this company and complain about how their service is so terrible." And all these stuff, and so you're growing up, and stuff like that. And you hear your family out there complaining and stuff like that. And then what happened is that you reach this point now. You reach this point where you're my in the 40th home ownership, and you realize that oh, customer and employee, customer and a worker is two different stuff. No, a cost you don't pay a customer. The customer pays you. The customer pays you. So when you go to work, that's the thing where I say employee is different from as I guess these I have to remember that these things are not obvious no because what happens is that actually maybe go out and get the information and stuff like that or live the experience. So when you're actually listening it now, you're actually saying, "Oh, I'm actually a new person that doesn't understand this." So what means that so this is what I actually learned so far is that a customer isn't an employee. So you come in and the you don't pay an employee, you don't pay a customer. A business don't pay a customer. Basically, basically, I'm doing this stuff through science. In complex business, it will actually get way more complex and stuff like that. One of the basic stuff is you don't go there and get paid for that. So what means they don't pay a customer on the surface level. These are that's the reason why I may say certain stuff in 1 year of home ownership. And then in the next year, knowledge get thrown away because what happened is that you're in a new year now, new year of home ownership. So what happened is that now, boom, you're out here so in the home ownership and and you're paying customers stuff and you're paying customer things and you're there so you're not getting paid as a customer. So boom, you're there to getting paid as a customer. Say certain stuff. I forget what I was saying. I have to always take my time and say it every time. Oh, so boom. So there's in the 40th home ownership. So you're there's a taking a wow. The next thing I have to say is that so when you're working, what will happen is that you're when you're working as an employee, you're going to realize that you are having the nice life, but when you're home, you're the CEO. So that statement is relevant once you're the somewhat man of the house. So it's in you're somewhat you're the man of the house, but at the work you're an employee. So what will happen is that boom, say for example your light goes away. Say for example your light goes away, you will not be able to say some you at your home. Like for example, if I realize what I've realized is that you go to a work and something, for example, the work, the problems that you always complain about at your home, when you go to work, you actually forget about all those problems. So, like for example, when I'm here in the third year of home ownership, what I would usually like about going to work was that when in the second year of our first or second year of home ownership, I would always have the the time of going the time of uh the second year of home ownership, I would actually just go and say something like, oh, you know, the issues that I usually have is that when the light goes away, oh my, I'm somewhat a technology person. Every time the light goes away, all right, this is it. If you actually listen, this was the experience growing up. Always growing up. So every time light goes away and this and stuff in the night as well, you have crickets. All my listeners, even some of my friends are listeners now. So crickets and stuff like that, they will always hear me complain about that, like going away, terrible internet and stuff like that. So sometimes I say sometimes I have this this part in the episode that I have frame of perspective. Where, sometimes remember where you're coming from. Sometimes actually forget where I'm coming from to remember that okay, I'm blessed to be here. So it's like sometimes I forget those days But what happens is that you have new days now. So out here, so working, and you so I'm have better internet and stuff like that, and making somewhat money and stuff like that. But what happens is that you realize something was that every all the issues that I usually have at home, like for example, somewhat I lack of water, some I lack of um terrible stuff. Realize when I go to work, you have the better of those stuff. So you what happens that you and I know these things are although it's funny, like you're saying like a listener know, like one of my friends was, oh, these things are obvious no or stuff like that. Yes, it's obvious, but something that this reason why I actually record this the fourth year podcast update is that you have to actually what I really remember is that just like doctor after always renewing them stuff and stuff like that I mentioned I sometimes have to always remind myself that the problems of a previous level will always come back. But if I'm not actually remember if I'm actually not keep on and that's the reason why a doctor always studying a doctor is always studying the thing of a previous level will always come back and if I forget those levels now then when I revert back to it you actually be like oh my god bro so it's like one of those stuff but it's a complicated thing now so but I guess the important thing the 40 of home ownership so I talk about the fact say oh I was working and all this stuff. When you go to the work you actually realize that the work is actually way better than the home. Like for example, boom, your days are listening to this podcast and stuff like that, and this podcast seems like it's so perfectly done. Every day you come in and listening to your one day. How the hell these things are yeah, better podcast than mine, but no, my podcast is perfectly done and stuff like that. But if you're actually listening in real life, that's not how it actually happens. I give you a synopsis, and then in real life, I'm out there doing the real stuff. Then the podcast episode is actually all the stuff that I actually learned back then in hindsight. It's like you come in and say, oh yeah, after I finish recording, then these stuff are I'm actually living. I actually live this stuff that I actually said already. So it's like you're just listening and say, oh, don't do that. That's basically what the podcast is. Yes. Don't do don't do that. And stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, the 40 of the park, the home ownership, what I realized is that you get kind of, you're working. You're working for example, a year. If you're in the 40 year of home ownership, you're working for a year or 2 hours or more, making more money than before and can do more stuff than before you can do more stuff than before. So what happens that you get lost in the stars and certain stuff don't feel right again. And what do I mean? Certain stuff I think you need more than certain stuff you need more than like for example, boom, in the first year or and that's the reason why I say you grow up in a family and then boom you move out and then you reach back and it's like oh you realize something. So it's like it's always a constant learning, growing process. So what means that boom in the first year you buy X amount of stuff and stuff. So what will happen is that in second year home ownership, you expect to buy X again. So you plan for X. But then Y happens. Then Y happens. And it's like, oh, I didn't account for Y. So in the fourth year, so in the fourth year up or the fifth went to the fifth year home ownership, no, I actually account for Y now. And it's like, oh, I have to account for Y now. So in the fifth year ownership now, I know A B X A B C to X and Y. No. And then you have to go and say, okay, no. Yes, I'm ready. And Z comes, Z problem comes. And the same thing at work. But the difference between at home and work is that at work you're out there so have a boss out there so telling you and I guess why the CEO of your home is actually rural. You're having a boss telling you that you clock in, do all the work and stuff like you clock in and be like, oh my god, just all I have to do is come in and do this task and then when 8 o'clock comes, or when that comes, I come out. But when you're at your home, and I guess why that episode is important, I guess a previous episode we talked about is important. Like at work, you're going to realize at work is basically the same things you did at home, but you're getting you have someone. Yeah, it's like at work. I guess at work your employee is somewhat you're out there, so it's like a easy way out of saying no. You're shirking away your responsibility. I tell them out there, so I was saying okay, yeah, let me not do this. Let me get someone to complete and say how to do this stuff. So it's like that's the thing where I be like so. Well, so in the 40 of home ownership are just like everything else. It's the same task again, but you have it's another year. It's you're compounding the knowledge again. So you have to actually be active. So what means that I realize that I'm better at doing this stuff, but I'm still getting lost in the sauce. I'm still forgetting they're still um forgetting the goal and stuff like that. So you have to actually so boom when you're going to work. I guess this relates to something at work as well, where you be like, yeah, relates to what to something at work again. You'll be like, oh, you lost. You get the home. The goal you were working to get a home. You get the home, and then for example, and that's the reason why I say, oh, frame of perspective. For every work, make sure you go there for a goal, and then sometimes something bad happen, but the goal is achieved. So you go to a work and say, okay, I'm trying to get a full shelter clothing. Then you unlock full shelter clothing. Then you get lost in the sauce. Then you get fired. Boom. But you get the full shelter clothing. Parlay that now when I go to the next work, you can always say, okay, I'm a homeowner now, and a this and that and stuff like that. So the job now will actually be accommodating to that, but you have experience and stuff like that. And then boom, next thing you go is say, oh, yeah, this and that. Then you go out and say, oh yeah, I have child and boom, child and then one, two, three child and stuff like that. Everything makes sense. So you out there, so compounding. Yeah, forget the point what I was actually saying. So I guess that's the other goal that I have in the 20 to 25 years. Actually, because I have so many ideas, I have to actually be out there to find a way to actually keep them, remember them, and stuff like that. So I guess that's the work in progress for the podcast this year. Is actually when I actually work, see, listen to these stuff to actually remember what I was saying. So yeah, so that is the next goal for this year. I'm gonna write it, try to write it down. And be like, oh my god, make succinct podcast episode where I don't forget stuff. So when I actually do that, make yeah, man. So there, so we actually making upgrade, bro. So episodes make make concrete episode where I don't forget the stuff. Make episodes. Hear that in the back, bro. Next thing you know, it's me in the video with writing stuff, bro. But everything coming time. Make episodes where I don't forget stuff. Where I don't forget stuff. Yeah. So yeah, So as I said these episodes are gonna be floppy as a at the start, because keep on forgetting this stuff. Saying in these episodes. But boom. So like I said, the 40 of home ownership is that. And the two important stuff is that I get lost in the sauce where I find some new ideas to make the home better. The dream is coming alive, but I'm also forgetting the I'm also forgetting the the dream is coming alive, but sometimes I get my procrastination, my tendency. I'm still childlike in a certain self where tendency to do certain stuff. Like for example, I still have a tendency to always be on my phone and just chilling out and all these stuff. Tendency to always be lost in the sauce. So what means that each year of home ownership, your responsibility becomes more. Just like in a growing up in a home or stuff like that, you're out there, so is a person that chilling out and having fun time, and but then boom, somebody else come and you have to actually be more responsible. The same thing as that, you have to actually be more responsible. Just like when you get promoted at work or stuff like that, you have to be more responsible, be more mindful and stuff like that. But at the same time, not lose yourself in a sense. Use your normal self in a sense. If you get what I mean. So what I mean is that boom, I'm in the fourth year of home ownership, so I have to actually be mindful of the fact that so what I mean by that, you pass through the university in the sense that you have a bachelor's, boom, or you pass high school. And that's it. The funny thing about this episode now, and that's the reason why I say, this podcast, it good to actually be like, you know where I'm coming from. You know where I'm coming from. So I'm coming from starting from BSc, from Bachelor of Science. So it's like, some people right now would have MSc or all these stuff now. So when I actually list those episodes now, it's actually from a very completely different perspective now. So boom, started from BSc now to homeowner and stuff like that. So what happens that now? In the home ownership here, you still have the tendency of growing up. So if you're the spoiled person, you still have the spoiled person tendency. But you have to actually be assuming these responsibilities now. So what happens like time management? You have to actually be out there. So jotting these stuff down, taking my time to develop the task. And each year, sometimes what I realize is that what I have to actually remember is that I have to actually in this year prioritize home and work and all these stuff. I have to actually separate them. So sometimes in one of the episodes I talk about tuning out the noise. Like legit, we have to be like, okay, yeah. And like and the artist copy. I think it's a thing she said that take the L to get the double A. Like sometimes we legit have to take the L, like legit leave the work or stuff like that to actually start out the home. Cause that was actually what we were praying for this whole time. What happens that boom, we were praying for a lot of stuff. So what happens is that we are unlocking the stuff that we are out there so praying for, but we can't do them all. We can't do them all. So we can't actually do them all. So we out there I will just take my time and out there so focus on solidifying one, then I solidify the other, and then solidify the other as well. And sometimes I actually have to move from one to be like, okay, I'm going to actually try to stop here and focus on this part because I reach this level in this place. I reach this level in this place, so I have to actually just kind of stop. I have to actually just kind of stop and actually just sort out myself. Even though the other level, I actually did have to stay at that place to actually get the new level of the stuff. Sometimes you be like, okay, I have to just chill back and then be like, okay, yeah, this level is not. I have to actually just um. So that's why I say in the fourth year of home ownership, I have to actually just be like, chill out and be like, this is the the stop point now. I have to actually just focus on maintaining this level so that when I'm back again, the money that I'm making now. So yes, and the next year, so boom. Before I was telling you, okay, yes, in the last year, last year goals in the podcast, we're talking about two phones and all these stuff, learn to watch wise. What you're going to realize is that in the year, in this new year of your experiences, going to the 29th year, you have so many ideas, so many stuff to do, and stuff like that. Till, until you can't even hold in your phone. Where I say these things are obvious. So you have to actually write them down in a book or write them down and take or these are simple. These are stuff. Take them down, write them down, accomplish them, and then uh, take your time and it actually compounds again. So take your time, write the stuff down, and actually go out and do it. So what happens is that all the problems that I have in year three, I bought something better to solve it in year four, but it's the same problem. It's the same problem that I actually had. So nothing did a change. It's just that I actually have the same problem, but I'm actually stronger and more wiser to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to tackle this thing a different way now. I actually look be like, oh yeah, this is actually the better way to actually do it now. Like this was it. Yeah. So sometimes that is the actual stuff. You'll be like, oh, this year I wasn't rich enough to actually get these stuff. I didn't have these stuff. I not only that, not even rich enough. Sometimes I say in each year of home ownership, things doesn't change. So it's like you say something like, "Oh, I unlock my year of home ownership. I get my degree. So okay, I'm going to just chill out and rest and stuff like that." Boom. Yes, you can always do that, but the people that actually get to the same place as you out there, so doing their best to actually reach those level, another level. So sometimes I still talking with the BSc. I'm going out the same person with that BS with that BSc my year, coming out with that MSc and all this stuff. And be like, oh God, what he actually was focusing on further in his academic career. Nothing is wrong with that, but what I realized was when he took forever to actually just completed that level that I did, and I really finish it. So it's like when actually this the episode, be like, oh my God, I actually just did that. And then now I'm in the home ownership phase now, where I have to actually take full attention to that. So, and then in the fourth year of home ownership, dealing with neighbors and all this stuff. So these things are obvious in university years. They do it in real life and all these stuff. But you have to actually come in and be like, okay, yeah, you these things are actually obvious, but I have to take my time and be like, okay, yeah, I'm actually doing this for actually doing this for myself. So sometimes you be like, oh yeah, why you record at this level of the podcast? No. So what means that when I actually start the podcast, started with some simple people now, then the podcast grow, and then some other people them know. So I have to actually account for some other people now. And be like, oh my God, so yeah, so what was that? The podcast was basically all the stuff I was a real person in my real life would actually see me saying that I was going to do. But for whatever reason, I could not either they were so negative or so on the opposite side. Or at the time I did not have the I would always proclaim it but didn't have the ability to actually do it. So yeah, the podcast was me saying, okay, yeah, this is me actually doing it now. So it's like, what happened is that a person now on my UE days are growing up. I just think, they're growing up. I guess that would make sense as well. People growing up and saying, all aside, all the mind, bro. No, bro. I was always inside, bro. But it's just that, we actually, I didn't have actually had the time, the ability to do what you were this doing at the time. So that's the reason sometimes be like, oh, all aside, all the mind. Like, bro, you know, what happened was that I was arrogant the time when you saw me, and then I was proven incorrect. I had to come back again and be like, oh, this is a new way. This I have to go back to the drawing board. So if you actually listen to these episodes, you realize every time I reach a new level, boom, here's something like I got anemia, diarrhea, all these stuff, hypertension, and all these stuff. Because I was going out with the arrogance and be like, oh my God, yeah, I could tackle this. But then after I read that about myself and be like, so what will happen is that I get all these answers now, but after actually coming and be like, oh yeah, this is the reason now for the answer. So I guess in this new year of home ownership, or the podcast life cycle and stuff like that, is that out there. So um, are at this level, certain things you just have to make pass by. Like it's like you had the dream and the dream manifest, and the manifest was too much. Like you have to actually be like, oh, I have to actually take the time now to actually be like, oh, the manifestation is actually too real. Like I have to take the time now to actually maintain the stuff that actually manifests. Forget what I mean. So it's like, so at this point in time, you hear me recording some episodes, and the episodes is not even if you were actually doing the work I was doing, you realize why the episode was not current, bro. No, it was not current, coherent. Like you were actually doing the things that I was doing. All right, no, no, no. is is the same thing that I was saying before, where in the previous episode we talk about. I will tell you a problem, tell you my issue. I ever go to the doctor, I tell them my issue and be like, oh my god, pretty stuff. Yeah, this is basically the same thing in this episode. Like boom, and that's here in the fourth year of home ownership as well. First with the third year ownership and come and tell you the problem that they had. And I'm gonna say, boom, let's do this, bro. That's why the podcast is here. Tell you that, oh, this is what happened to me last year, bro. So yeah, it actually saved you $10 million. It actually saved you $10 million just by listening to this episode that you actually could put into the thing, like but that's the thing. Yeah, we have to just take our time. I save like $10 million. You can actually put in anything, but you know, but we had to actually do that. Now we actually have to. I forgot something that I was actually saying again. Yes, yeah, that was basically what I was saying. That I was actually forgetting what I was saying. So sometimes what happens at the podcast, I start the podcast so long ago that I was actually manifesting this stuff. And when I manifest I didn't realize. I didn't realize at this point. So yeah, this episode is actually what it is. I'm getting lost in the sauce. So what happens is that yeah, the I'm getting lost in the sauce. So what happens is that actually come in and start with the real life stuff. So the podcast was actually the stuff I was praying for, but I was always getting lost in the sauce. I'm always getting lost in the sauce, and the other stuff that I'm always praying for. Like back in the days, I would say, "Oh my God, I wish I had a home, bro." No, 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 no. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. What happened that back in the days, I would have the society pressure and say, "No, ah, you don't have a home, you don't have a car, and all these stuff." No, I have them now, so I have to. I unlock the ability to have them. So now I have to actually assume the reality of having them. So that's basically this episode of airport home ownership, where it be like, oh, all the thing that you did in the third year wasn't wrong. It's just that you're in the fourth year now. So certain stuff, so the things that I say now make sense in the fourth year if you're in my stage. And so it's like what happened is that what happened is that things that you thought were useless becoming useful. Those stuff are real. What also is real is that you're just gonna use certain stuff for different things. Like I use a pen holder, a kangaroo holder for pen holder, stuff like that. What happens is that you're gonna actually you're homeowner now. So what happens is that the family actually give you home items. So you're gonna realize in each year of the home ownership, you're actually using the home items for home stuff. And it's like, I actually forgot that. I forgot that. Oh yeah. So that's the never. So that's the next level of richness that the ODS are doing it. That you don't. Oh, that's the next level of richness that you're going to. We're gonna talk about. We'll be like, oh, I'm actually. So when you go to work, your OTs are solving these people problems. You go to work and you're solving these people problems. Be like, oh, you are ODS. So um solving these people problem. Oh my god, these people are rich people problem. Then when you unlocking the riches now, you're out there. So doing the stuff that you were out there so hearing the people them talking about. So you're actually using the candle holder for candle candle stuff. You're out there so you know making successful purchases and all these stuff. You're out there so using the home a candle holder for candles now. That becomes the norm now. You know so that's what happened in the fourth year going on, where you're actually becoming the home is actually becoming a home now, where the home stuff is actually being used for home stuff. You actually have to go out and be like, oh my god, I'm cooking now. So I have to put on the phone or do these stuff. Or you know, in this fourth year, you're going to be like, oh, I have to stop multitask now. When I'm in the kitchen, I'm in the kitchen. When I'm in the backyard, clean the backyard, I have to clean the backyard. All these stuff have to be like, okay, yes, this is actually what I'm doing now until it becomes this stuff. So this is what happens in the fourth year of home ownership, where it be like, oh, the home is actually becoming a home, and it's like, wow, that was actually what we were saying manifesting all these years, and it's actually happening. So it's like the home is actually becoming the home. So I guess this is the reason for the podcast as well. It'd be like, oh, you're actually listening to the stuff that I'm out there suffering for. That that is actually happening. So what is actually the home is actually becoming a home now. So I have to actually do home stuff, like build it up, maintain it, check it, and it's renovate. So renovating, yes, that is the word. I am actually renovating it now at this level. So yeah, before I could not even maybe not dream of doing that word. So what saying that word? So what happening is now I actually saying that word, and it doesn't really make much sense or make that much reality at this level. But in the fifth year, renovating will become a normal word. And be like, oh my god, I'm renovating and all these stuff. Until renovation become the norm now. And be like, oh my god, I does it until you see me putting out episode, oh my god, this is what I do to my home and all these stuff. So like, it levels. So that's the next thing you actually own hearing this fourth year home ownership where you be like, you're out there so using the actual stuff now, doing the actual stuff. So you saying home terms now, like renovating. Yeah. Yeah. So that's basically and those become the norm now. Where we're like, oh yeah, yeah. So that's basically it for this episode. Thank you for listening and look forward for the next episode. Stop.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/cssb/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page, Reframing Mindset Podcast, or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.